Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, the 30th of June. And here I am again doing my Facebook Live on my Peyton Principles Natural Health Facebook page. So it's great to see you, those of you who can join me tonight. All my Facebook Lives, there's lots of them now that have been put onto my Peyton Principles Natural Health YouTube channel. So if you have enjoyed these, do go back and take a look because they're all there. And I've certainly done quite a lot of different topics in the past 6 months. So it's 30th of June. I started this at the beginning of January, and this is going to be the last one that I'm going to do on my Peyton Principles Natural Health Facebook page. From next week, I'm going to be focusing my attention for a while on my new closed Facebook group, which I'd love for you to join. The details are at the top of this Facebook page, and if you click on that, you can see how you can join the closed Facebook group, which, whilst it may be called IBS Relief, it's all about gut health and why that's so important to our health overall. So I'm going to be doing lots of different Facebook Lives. I'm planning to put the first one out next Tuesday at midday. So I'm going to change the time slightly and see if that is a good time for people to join. So I'd really love you to join a closed Facebook group. If I haven't invited you already, I will send invites to those of you I know, but please come across and join me there. I will still be posting here, and it's not going to be the last, but I do need to give some attention to that group because that's my specialist area. I am launching my course that's coming out in the next week or so. So I want to put more information and focus a bit more attention into that group for at least the next month or so. But I will be coming back doing some lives, but certainly go over and join that group. I'd love to see you over there. So, yeah, I thought tonight I'd talk about vegetable oils, and I said I got my inspiration from Chris Evans because this morning he was, he chatters away on Virgin Radio. You may like him, you may not, but I really enjoy listening to his Virgin Radio show. And it was just some sort of throwaway comment, but he happened to he talked about some lady who lost a significant amount of weight, who was vegan, by cutting out fats and oils from her diet. And he went on to say, well, yes, of course, if you eat a bowl of pasta and you put a lot of so if you put a lot of olive oil on the top of it, and you're adding all those calories, and that's not healthy at all. So I just sort of this just sparked something in me, and I couldn't just leave that announcement on the radio for people to just think, oh, olive oil, can't eat that, that's not good. Chris Evans has just told me that olive oil isn't good for me. So I immediately text away and sent in a text on the radio, which he did actually read out. And then following on from that, there was another comment. But by the end of it, we sort of said, oh, yeah, we're sort of in agreement. But so I thought, oh, that'd be a really good thing to talk about. Why is it? We've got all these different types of vegetable oils, and they are certainly, most definitely, not all in the same category. So I thought that's what I would talk about. I'll just sort of read out some of these names. So you've got, obviously, olive oil, but there's sunflower oil, safflower oil, corn oil, canola oil. That's one that's used a lot, and you hear a lot of that in America. You've got rapeseed oil that everyone says is really healthy. Soybean oils, or you may just see to purchase in the supermarket vegetable oil, which can be a whole raft of different oils. So, what is it about all these different oils, and why are they good, or why may they not be good for you? So, first of all, most of these oils, like your sunflower oils, which you think of sunflowers, you think, oh, that, I encourage people to eat some seeds. Oh, you think about, that's a seed, that's going to be good for your sunflower oil as a vegetable oil. Oh, that must be good for you. why it isn't, because when we extract oils from seeds, it's really, really difficult to get extract the oils from the seeds. So it goes through a huge amount of processing. And the way in which these oils are extracted from the seeds is by using, usually, most often, a lot of heat, and a lot of different chemicals are involved, and resulting from that you get the liquid oil. So it's one thing to eat a sunflower seed and another thing to go through a very laborious, heat-driven, process-driven process to actually extract that oil from it. And that process, and especially with the heat, is very, very damaging to this delicate oil. So what happens is when it's heated and it's very, very, it gets processed, that heat damages the fat. Fats are very, very delicate, and it's very, very easy for them to become what we call damaged fats. And when they're damaged, they create something we call free radicals. So you'll have heard of antioxidants. So when things have free radicals, they are damaging to the body. When we think of rust on an apple, that's free radicals, that's oxidation, that's damage. When fats go through this processing, that creates what we call oxidation, and they give off free radicals. So you think about the brown on a cut apple. It doesn't look very nice, and it's not that great for you. So fats are 10 times worse than that when they are damaged. So the processing creates the damage, and it creates these things called free radicals. So that's not good for you. Then what happens typically with these quite cheap, they are actually very cheap to produce. These oils typically go first of all into a plastic bottle, and the oil may sort of, the interaction between the fat and the plastic could create further damaging chemicals that isn't good for you. And secondly, they're normally in clear plastic, and the light and sunlight and light does further damage to the fat, creates more what we call free radical damage, more oxidation. So the fats are damaged before you've even put them into your body. Then, of course, we start to heat them and create more free radical damage. So before you've even really done much at all, you've got potentially very, very damaged fats that have the potential, with a lot of oxidation, to not do your body much good at all. So why is it that we were told, we should be eating all these vegetable oils, that they're going to be so much better for us? Going back to the 80s, when we were told that fat, butter, saturated fat wasn't good for us, and these were all good for us, is because they came from the concept of polyunsaturated fats not being saturated fats, and heart disease and all of that as being good for us. But it overlooked all these other aspects. And in fact, the fat hypothesis of saturated fat and heart disease has pretty much been ridiculed when you start reading the research today. So, and that's why we have this issue about margarines and trans fats in margarines, which have pretty much been taken off the market now, because they actually cause more damage to you than butter. Well, I'd say butter doesn't cause damage to you at all. So so that's the first aspect. So you've got things like these cheap vegetable oils, seed oils like the sunflower and the safflower and the canola and the soybean oil are really not good oils to be purchasing. So the other aspect is to do with omega-6 and omega-3. Now, we tend to put the two of those together. We talk about essential fats and how essential fats are really good for us. And omega-6 is an essential fat, as is omega-3. The problem is to do with the ratios of these two types of fats. So historically, the ratio in our body should be 1 to 1. So the intake, because you only get them through our diets, the intake of these fats should be on a one-to-one basis, an equal intake of omega-3 to omega-6. But the reality, because these cheaper vegetable oils have been used so heavily in processed foods and in crisps and in biscuits and in other processed foods that we buy, as well as using them for cooking, that the reality today in a typical diet is that these fats are on a 20-to-1 ratio, i.e. the intake is seen to be 20 times omega-6 to 1 intake of omega-3. And the problem with that imbalanced ratio is that whilst we know omega-3 has an anti-inflammatory effect on the body, the omega-6 can block that anti-inflammatory pathway. And indeed, omega-6 are thought to also contribute to inflammation in the body, or indeed that free radical damage and oxidation can go on to be inflammatory to the body. So we need to be very careful in what sorts of oils we're using. Now, so far I haven't actually mentioned olive oil. Now, olive oil isn't an omega-6 and it's not an omega-3, it's actually a fat called an omega-9. And we know, and something I mentioned when I wrote into this text to Chris Evans, is that we know omega-9 and olive oil has a very positive effect on cholesterol. Research has shown it helps to lower LDL cholesterol, may help to raise HDL cholesterol. Very positive impact on some of these fats in helping to burn fats in the body. So omega-9, the olive oil has a much better heat pattern when you're heating it as well. So it's not going to break down and create the same level of free radical damage that these other vegetable oils are going to do. And when you buy olive oil, you really do need to make sure you're buying the cold pressed extra virgin olive oil in a dark glass bottle. It's all these aspects that are important, because all of those together help to stop this free radical damage of the fats, which can still happen to olive oil or indeed any fats at all. So you want the dark glass bottles and you want the extra virgin olive oil, which should be cold, because it's extra virgin, it should be this cold pressed. And of course, cold, it's not the heat, you're not going to get the damage to it. And that's why olive oil is significantly different to all these different types of vegetable oil. So we've then got, I thought, well, somebody might be interested to know my thoughts on flaxseed oil and coconut oil. You get a lot of different schools of thought out there about coconut oil. People say, well, it's a saturated fat, that's not going to be good for you. The fat content in coconut oil is very different to some of the other fats, saturated fats. So it has these different types of medium chain triglycerides that are very, very different. Used quite heavily in the ketogenic diet because they're also thought to burn fat. Nutritional therapists tend to love coconut oil because it has a very, very high heat. You can heat it to a very high level and it's not going to create damage until it gets to a really high heating point. So that's why nutritional therapists love to use it with their cooking. So that's one of the aspects, and not in the same context of, well, as I mentioned at the start, not causing the problems with heart disease as a saturated fat that was once thought 30, 40, I don't know, maybe even 50 years ago that we thought about. Avocado oil, again, you know, it's a great oil to be using because it's not come from a seed. So the extraction from it isn't difficult, like olive oils come from an olive. Avocado oil has come from an avocado. So it's very easy to extract the oils as opposed to trying to get them out of that tough seed, which is quite different. So avocado oil, again, different qualities in it, but you're not going to have that free radical damage that you're going to potentially have with these cheap vegetable oils, and lovely to use on salads. You get these other nut oils. You can get walnut oil. So you wouldn't heat them, but not very much. I know they're used often in Chinese cooking. and used in stir fries, which is very short, sharp cooking, but then lovely drizzled over some of your cooking and over salads. So they're great to use in that way, different properties. So I think that covers all the oils I was going to talk about. So just to be aware, you know, never, ever, ever buy any vegetable oils, whichever ones you're buying, even olive oil, that are in a clear bottle. Even the extra virgin olive oil, even if it's in glass, do not buy it if it's in a clear bottle. And never ever store your oils when they're out in the direct light, and certainly never ever in the sunlight, because they get damaged exceptionally quickly. Keep them in a dark place in your cupboard, and try and always buy your oils in glass, dark glass bottles. And I really would encourage you to, you know, you do get what you pay for. So don't go for the cheap vegetable oils, and don't really go for the sunflower oils and the canola oils. Just choose your oils really, really carefully, because it's the impact that they have in your body that you can't see that makes all the difference to your health. So that's my points for today on my principles of good health. And if you missed the start, I've now been doing these for 6 months on this Facebook page of mine, Peyton Principles Natural Health. And from next week, I'm going to be focusing my effort and my lives in my closed Facebook group, which you can find the details of right at the top of my page. So click on that and it will take you in how to join my closed group. So I'm going to do more of my Facebook lives there in the next month or so. I'm putting my effort into there because I'm launching my course, which I'm super excited about. I will keep posting here, and I will come back and do lives, but certainly not in the next month or so. So thank you for all your time and listening to all of these posts in the last 6 months of my Facebook lives. They are all now in YouTube. I've got my own channel on YouTube called Peyton Principles Natural Health. They've all been put in there, so there's loads of them in there, so on all different topics. Go away and watch those, please do, and do tell other people and subscribe. I'm looking for people to subscribe to my channel because I'd love to get more viewers in there as well. And thank you for your time, and I'd love to see you next week, Tuesday midday, in my closed Facebook group. So come on over into that group, and hopefully I'll see lots of you there next week. Have a good week.